Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Now that my two obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And I came across a video. It actually just came organically through my feed. No one made me aware of it. I just saw Jeff Cavaliere talk about a magical weight loss secret, so I went ahead to check it out. And it was a parody video, but I found it fairly amusing, and I think it brought home an interesting point. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skill in my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. And I'll link the video down below. And a lot of you guys know I don't always agree with everything Jeff says. I disagree strongly with him on a lot of things, but there are a lot of times when he makes great points. Now, I'm also one of the first people to say I don't really respect or appreciate his knowledge on strength. I don't think he's strong. I don't think he knows how to get people strong. Might be a good physical therapist. He definitely knows how to get people lean. That there is no doubt. And so he's one of those guys that I would tell you straight up, I wouldn't go to him to build my bench press. I wouldn't go to him to get a better squat or a deadlift. I wouldn't go to him to improve my standing press. I don't think he has any good knowledge about how to get people strong, that's from what I can tell. However, guy stays really, really, really lean. He gets his people really, really lean. Is he someone who does seem to know more than a little bit about losing body fat? Absolutely. Like with anyone else out there, we can be critical of a lot of people, but a lot of people out there still have knowledge in certain areas, even if they get other things wrong. His knowledge of fat loss is pretty solid. So he made this parody joke video, and people are going to watch it, calling it the SF diet, right? The stomach flu diet, which is interesting because it kind of comes back to the whole point that it's all about calories in, calories out. And he highlights that extremely well. But I think he also kind of makes fun of how extreme people can get with their own fad diets and with these special diets and this whole idea that people have, they have to suffer, because that is a big part of it. These ultra strict hardcore diets. Well, this is the sort of stuff that's been marketed in the past. I mean, I've seen it joked about, and it's not really a joke though. Like people joke about tapeworms and things, but you need to understand that was something that used to be actually sold as a weight loss regimen. Right? That's how extreme the diet industry is, that 70, 80, 100 years ago, and I don't remember the exact date, but there were ads way before I was ever born in various publications that were selling tapeworm eggs as a weight loss situation, because you put that parasite in you, you're going to lose weight, right? This isn't new. This isn't new. And people have always known that. At the end of the day, if you eat less, you're going to lose weight. Or if you have a way for something else to take care of the food, because there's still calories in, calories out. But I like that he kind of highlighted making fun of certain things with paleo and keto and everything else. And look, I'm not saying that these diets don't work. I've lost 50 pounds before on a ketogenic diet. Right? I've done it. It can totally be done. But the whole point that he makes is that people tend to take them to the extremes. And what I like is like the whole butter in the coffee thing. That's a perfect example. That's a perfect example of absolute stupidity. Like, let's say a person was even going to do a ketogenic diet. But this idea that you somehow have to find a way to get even more fat in, that you've got to drink liquid fat, that's getting absurd. The whole point of a ketogenic diet is that it gives great appetite management, right? That is the magical secret of a ketogenic diet. It gives you great appetite management. And what does that mean? That means that you can more strictly and more consistently follow a caloric deficit. That's it. That's the only magic thing about a ketogenic diet. And other than treating certain medical conditions, and and there is some validity to that. There are certain medical conditions that it's useful in treating. But this idea that you would need to add butter back to into your coffee so that you're actually drinking liquid fat, and I mean, butter is not a particularly fantastic fat, all things considered. And I mean, I remember Alan Aragon ripping on that, even for people who are keto adherents, the whole bulletproof coffee thing. It's really ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous. That's taking a diet that we know does work, and it does work in the right conditions. And I mean, it works for a lot of people. I'm not going to claim it doesn't. There can be problems with it, but it does work for a lot of people, because it's about caloric management. But this whole idea of now drinking butter in your coffee and, like you said, pretending that it tastes good, I think that was a pop at that. And for me, even though he wrapped it all up in satire and humor, something like that is really funny, because it highlights how silly people can get with this stuff in these diets, that they honestly believe that they're so magical that they'll follow it to the extreme where they're putting butter in their coffee and pretending it tastes good. when, if anything, they should just be enjoying a nice cut of meat. Eat some extra eggs, eat some cheese at that point. Eat something that's got some that you get to chew and enjoy. All right? And you're going to have better satiety, right? You don't want to drink liquid calories on any diet. Like if you're drinking calories on a diet, then something is really wrong. Because the whole purpose of any of these diets is to help you reduce appetite. Well, drinking calories isn't the best way to reduce appetite. So that was a good point. Same thing, he kind of took the pop at some of the paleo stuff. And the reality is the same thing. Is a diet that has you live on reasonably lean, not even necessarily fully lean, reasonably lean protein sources, vegetables, tubers, mostly unprocessed foods with a fair amount of protein in it and a fair amount of fiber in it. Is that a good appetite management strategy? Of course it is. Of course it is. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a viable strategy for controlling caloric intake. Absolutely. For a lot of people that works really, really well. I'm not going to knock that. However, when people get into these silly ideas of what's paleo, when they're trying to figure out what was actually paleo, that's where people get ludicrous, and that's where people completely ignore what real paleo is because they're trying to figure out all these other constraints on it. And the reality is, why do paleo diets actually work at all? A lot of protein, right? A lot of protein, a lot of insoluble fiber, right? Protein, insoluble fiber, minimally processed foods. Well, that's also a good strategy for fat loss because it allows for appetite management. Allows for good appetite management and diet adherence. That's it. And he kind of comes around full circle with that and again shows the example of the stomach flu. And he's right. It is about calories in, calories out. That is ultimately what happens. And if you have the stomach flu, I mean, your core does get a fantastic workout with all the diarrhea and cramps and vomiting and shivering. It's free. You don't got to pay for it. He took a nice pop at Bernie Sanders in there, which was kind of funny. A little bit of comedy, which would make sense. People say, oh, he shouldn't bash on Bernie Sanders. Well, Jeff is an entrepreneur. He's a business owner. I think most business owners are not necessarily going to be real big on Bernie Sanders. Let's be realistic here. So, again, he had a little bit of a pop at it. And understandable. It is about calories in, calories out. And the whole point he made here is that these are how extreme people go with this stuff. I mean, when people get to the point to where they're arguing over whether a potato is paleo or not, or whether peanuts are paleo or not, when the whole point of the paleo diet is just it's good satiety, because you're eating a lot of protein, a lot of insoluble fiber, you're not eating a lot of processed junk, it's easier to lose weight, it's easier to manage your appetite. Ketogenic diets, they suppress appetite. They're filling, they suppress appetite. Ketosis can be suppressing of appetite. It's all diet adherence. But people will take them to these extremes of drinking butter in their coffee, is the insanity of it. And he did it just in kind of a fun little package that, again, highlights how ridiculous people get with this stuff to the point to where they actually feel they need to be masochistic and suffer and subject themselves to ridiculous stuff in the effort to lose body fat. When at the end of the day, what is realistically the best way to lose body fat? Find a dietary approach that gives you enough protein to maintain muscle and get a good thermic effect and to help suppress your appetite, and find foods that you can eat in a diet strategy that allows you to be consistent in maintaining a caloric deficit. And that's essentially what Jeff does. He's one of those guys. I mean, let's be realistic. Does he seem to follow a special diet? No. He eats a lot of protein. He eats a lot of filling foods. He tracks his food intake. And the guy stays ultra lean year round. That's his strategy. And the thing that we come down to with that is that what's going to work for different people? Well, different approaches are going to work for different people, not because they process carbs different than others. But it has to do with individual trigger foods, individual appetite. What foods and what style of dieting is going to help you feel full and is going to help you feel satiated, and that you can follow consistently enough that you're going to adhere to it. That's ultimately what it all comes down to. And even guys like Jeff understand that, and he promotes that. And so again, he kind of went in that direction. It was subtly hinted at with all of that in the satire. And I think, again, it was a good way to make fun of people getting too extreme in any of these dietary approaches. So I thought it was a pretty well done piece of satire, and it does bring back around, when you look at it a little more closely, it does highlight the point again that it really is about calories in, calories out. That really is ultimately what matters the most, because in the case of the stomach flu, you're expelling all of your calories out, so you're going to see enormous amounts of weight loss. But it's not even all fat loss. We're talking muscle glycogen loss, water weight loss, everything else, because you're just expelling everything out of your body. But ultimately, that's also what a lot of the kooky or fad diets try to tell people. You can eat anything that you want, as much food as you want on this diet, and still lose weight. And that is almost never true unless you got a tapeworm or you're vomiting it all back up. So again, he also kind of made a poke at that, which I thought was humorous, because that is what a lot of people promise out there. You can eat as much raw fruit as you want and still lose weight. Total absurdity, right? Total absurdity. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.